The big broken ship floated in empty space like a forgotten memory. It was called the HSV Dauntless. Once it was the pride of human space fleets. Now it just drifted through the cold darkness of space. It was a ghost ship among the stars. Its outer shell had many scars from old battles. It shined weakly in the light of a faraway sun. Commander Tay of the Kirval Reconnaissance Force looked at the scanner screens on his ship. The old human warship had been floating for over 200 years. It was left from the Great War that almost wiped out all humans. His thin gray fingers moved across the control panel. He turned to talk to his second-in-command. Scans show very little power on the ship, Lieutenant Mock. No active defense systems are working. Lieutenant Mock nodded. Her purple eyes narrowed. The humans were clever, Commander. Their technology was simple compared to ours, but they found ways to survive. Being clever did not save them in the end, Commander Tay said. Get a boarding. Team ready. I want a complete search of that vessel. Our leaders think there might be useful technology on board. It could help us in our fight against the Nexus Collective. Within an hour, 6 Kirval soldiers moved quietly through the empty hallways of the HSV Dauntless. Their slim bodies wore tight-fitting spacesuits. Their shadows looked long in the beams of their lights. This ship is very big, said Specialist Varn, the team's technology expert. The humans built things too large to be efficient. They were always trying to make up for their physical weaknesses, said Squad Leader Rin. Stay alert. We are getting close to what looks like the control center. The boarding team walked through hallways full of floating debris. Sometimes they saw the remains of human crew members, preserved in the emptiness of space. The ship showed signs of a last desperate fight. There were blast marks on the walls. The humans had built barriers at important hallway junctions. When they reached the bridge, Squad Leader Rin signaled for caution. The big door to the command center was closed tight, unlike most other doors they had found. Strange, said Specialist Varn, looking at the door's control panel. This section still has emergency power after all this time. Can you open it? Commander Tay's voice came through their communication devices. Yes, but it will take time to get past the security systems. While Varn worked on the door, the rest of the team explored nearby hallways. In a small room close by, Lieutenant Mock found something unusual. It was a second control room hidden behind what had looked like a solid wall. Commander, I found something, she reported. It looks like a hidden command center. There is a single sleep pod here. The team gathered around the pod. Its surface was covered with a thin layer of ice crystals. Through the cloudy window they could see the shape of a human inside. Impossible, said Commander Tay over the radio. No human could have lived this long in sleep with the basic technology they had. Specialist Varn went to the pod and scanned it with his equipment. The pod is connected to the ship's emergency power. It seems designed to keep someone alive. For a very long time. He paused, looking at the readings. Commander, the pod is starting to wake up its occupant. What? Did you activate it? Tay demanded. No, Commander. It seems to have started because we are here. Some kind of system that detects nearby life forms. The sleep pod began to make noise as its old machinery worked hard. Ice started to melt from its surface as heaters inside turned on. Inside the pod, Kim Jun, the last human soldier of the HSV Dauntless, began to wake up from a sleep that had lasted 200 years. His eyes stayed closed, but deep in his changed. Brain systems that had been asleep for a long time began to start up again. The aliens watched with great interest. They did not know they had just awakened humanity's final weapon. Back on the Kirval ship, Commander Tay felt worried. What can you tell me about this human? Not much, Commander, Varn replied. The ship's records are locked. I can only access basic information. His name is Kim Jun. He has the rank of captain, but his role on the ship is classified. Be careful, Tay warned. Human warships often had special defense systems. This could be a trap. Lieutenant Mock moved closer to the pod, studying the human inside. His vital signs are getting stronger. The medical technology in this pod is impressive for its time. She touched the control panel of the pod, trying to access more information. The pod's systems responded to her touch in an unexpected way. A holographic display appeared above the pod, showing a spinning DNA strand that slowly changed into the image of a human brain with glowing pathways. Specialist Varn. "Look at this," Mock called. "I think this human has been modified." Varn joined her, his eyes widening as he studied the display. "These are not normal human neural patterns. They appear to be designed to interface directly with synthetic systems." Squad leader Rin moved his team into defensive positions around the pod. "We should destroy it. The human could be dangerous." "No," Commander Tay interrupted through the communication link. "The High Command wants all technology intact. Continue monitoring, but do not damage anything." As they debated, the pod's cover began to slide open. Mist poured out, filling the small room with cold vapor. The Kirval soldiers raised their weapons, pointing them at the opening pod. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a hand gripped the edge of the pod. The human pulled himself up to a sitting position. Kim Jun opened his eyes slowly, blinking, as they adjusted to light for the first time in centuries. He looked at each of the aliens in turn, his face showing no surprise or fear. When he spoke, his voice was rough from long disuse. "You should not have come here." A faint blue light flickered behind his eyes, so quick that the aliens thought they had imagined it. Throughout the ship, silent alarms began to activate. Systems that had been dormant for 2 centuries started to power up. The HSV Dauntless was waking up along with its last defender. On the bridge of the Kirval ship, warning signals began to flash. The tactical officer turned to Commander Tay with concern on his face. "Commander, we are detecting power surges throughout the human vessel. Its reactor is becoming active." Commander Tay stared at the image of the ancient warship on his view screen. What had seemed like a simple salvage mission was turning into something much more dangerous. "Get our boarding party out of there," he ordered. Now, but it was already too late. The trap had been set 200 years ago, and now it had been sprung. The sleep pod opened with a hissing sound as gas escaped. The Kirval boarding party stepped back. They held their weapons ready as the human inside began to move. After 200 years of deep sleep, Kim Jun opened his eyes fully. He did not move right away. His enhanced brain quickly understood the situation. Through barely open eyes, he watched the 6 alien figures standing around his pod. He recognized them immediately. They were Kirval, the main enemy that had attacked humans. During the Great War, Lieutenant Mock approached the pod with her scanner out. "The human's body signs are becoming normal. It is amazing that their technology could keep a person alive for so long." Kim's mind worked fast. The ship's emergency plan would have woken him up only for specific reasons. Either the war had been won and friends had come to find him, or enemies had entered the ship. The presence of Kirval made the answer clear. "It seems to be waking up," Squad Leader Rin said. "Specialist Varn, what do we know about this human?" Varn worked with the nearby computer. "Not much information available. Name, Kim Jun. Rank, Captain. Job, classified. There are many security blocks preventing access to more information." Kim decided it was time to act. His muscles, kept healthy through advanced technology in the pod, tensed as he prepared himself. In one smooth motion, he sat up quickly, surprising the aliens. His hand shot out, grabbing Lieutenant Mock's arm and pulling her forward as a shield. At the same time, he took her weapon. "Do not move," he said, his voice rough from not being used for centuries. The universal translator in the aliens' suits changed his words to their language. The Kirval soldiers froze. Their weapons pointed at him, but they could not shoot without hitting their friend. "Calm down, human." Commander Tay's voice came through the squad's communication system. Kim could hear it through Mock's helmet. "The war between our kinds ended long ago." "Then why are you on my ship?" Kim demanded. "For salvage and research," Tay replied. "The conflict that destroyed your species has been over for nearly 200 years. Humanity is gone." Kim's face showed no emotion, though the news hit him hard. Not completely gone, it seems. Using Lieutenant Mock as a shield, Kim backed away from the group. "I'm going to access the ship's systems. Any aggressive moves will result in your team member's death." With practiced skill, Kim reached the nearby computer terminal and placed his palm on the identification panel. The old system recognized his handprint, and the screens lit up. Captain Kim Jun, identification confirmed, announced the ship's computer in a female voice. Project Guardian protocols activated. The lights throughout the section brightened. Previously dormant systems began to hum with new energy. "What is Project Guardian?" Squad leader Rin asked loudly. Kim did not answer right away. His attention was on the information scrolling across the screen. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet but determined. "I am Project Guardian, the last line of defense for humanity." Commander Tay, watching through the squad's video feeds from the Kirval ship, felt a chill despite the controlled temperature of his vessel. There was something in the human's eyes, a calculated intelligence that suggested Kim Jun was far more than a simple soldier. "Specialist Varn," Tay ordered, "report everything you have learned about this human and the ship's systems." Varn hesitated. "Commander, I am detecting unusual activity throughout the vessel. Power is being redirected to multiple systems that were previously dormant, and the human, medical scans show extensive modifications. Neural enhancements, augmented muscles, and something connected to his central nervous system that I cannot identify." On the HSV Dauntless, Kim accessed the ship's status reports. Most of the vessel's weapons were offline. They had been destroyed or used up during the final battle, but the central computer core was intact. With it, the true power of Project Guardian remained. "You should not have come here," Kim told the Kirval boarding party. "You should not have awakened me." With those words, he started the next phase of his programming. Throughout the massive warship, hidden systems designed to stay dormant until this very moment began to power up. The HSV Dauntless and Kim Jun had been created for one purpose: to ensure that even in defeat, humanity would have its revenge. Commander Tay's voice came through the communication system again. "Captain Kim, I understand your caution, but much has changed in the galaxy since your time. The Kirval are not the same people who fought in the Great War." Kim studied the alien commander's face on the screen. "Evidence suggests otherwise. Your boarding party was sent to salvage weapons. The cycle of violence continues. We face a new threat," Tay explained. "The Nexus Collective threatens all biological life. We need advanced technology to defend ourselves." "Convenient," Kim replied. "But I have accessed your ship's database through Lieutenant Mock's linked systems. Your mission parameters include bringing any human technology back to Kirval space for weapons development." Lieutenant Mock looked surprised. "You hacked my suit systems?" Kim gave her a small smile. "Your technology is advanced but not completely foreign to me. Project Guardian was designed to adapt and learn." Through his connection to the ship, Kim had already assessed the tactical situation. 3 Kirval vessels waited nearby. They were positioned to attack if needed. The HSV Dauntless, despite its age, still had some defensive capabilities. "I have a proposal, Commander Tay," Kim said, looking at the screen. "I will release your boarding party except for Lieutenant Mock, who will remain as my liaison. In return, you will withdraw your vessels to a safe distance while I complete my systems check." There was a long pause before Tay responded. "And if I refuse?" Kim's eyes glowed with a faint blue light. "Then I will be forced to demonstrate that this old warship is not as helpless as it appears." To emphasize his point, a low hum filled the ship as an energy field began to form around the HSV Dauntless. It was not a weapon but a shield. Still, its sudden activation made Commander Tay reconsider his options. "Very well," Tay agreed reluctantly. "My boarding party will return, and we will maintain distance. But Lieutenant Mock must not be harmed." "She will be safe as long as your intentions remain peaceful," Kim assured him. As the Kirval soldiers prepared to leave, squad leader Rin approached Kim. "If you harm her, we will find a way to destroy you and this ship." Kim nodded. "Your concern for your comrade is noted. Perhaps humanity and the Kirval have something in common after all." After the boarding party departed, Kim turned to Lieutenant Mock. "Now, Lieutenant, you and I have much to discuss." "What do you want to know?" she asked, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. "Everything," Kim replied. 200 years of galactic history, the fate of humanity's colonies, the evolution of the Kirval, and most importantly, the nature of this Nexus collective that concerns your people so much. As Lieutenant Mock began to explain, Kim continued his connection with the ship's systems. The HSV Dauntless had been designed for more than just warfare. It was humanity's ark, containing the seeds for a potential rebirth, and Kim Jun, the human-machine hybrid, was its guardian. For the first time in 2 centuries, he had a purpose again. But what that purpose would be, vengeance or renewal, remained to be decided. Commander Tay paced the bridge of his vessel. He felt worried as reports came in from the boarding party. "What do you mean you have lost contact with the ship's systems? Explain." Specialist Varn's voice came through with clear tension. "Something is happening, Commander. The human has connected with the ship's computer network in a way I have never seen before. It is as if he is becoming one with the vessel." On board the HSV Dauntless, Kim Jun stood motionless at the terminal. His eyes were closed, his palms still pressed against the interface. To the watching Lieutenant Mock, he appeared to be in some kind of trance. In reality, his mind was expanding throughout the warship's systems. He was waking up dormant protocols and checking what still worked. Project Guardian had never been just about keeping a human soldier alive. Kim was the result of humanity's desperate final plan. He was a hybrid of man and machine. His neural pathways were designed to connect directly with the Dauntless itself. He was not merely a pilot or captain, but the physical part of the ship's AI. Lieutenant Mock, still held as a hostage but momentarily forgotten as Kim connected with the ship, studied the human with scientific interest. "The readings from his brain activity are beyond normal limits," she whispered to herself. "This technology should not have been possible with human science from that time." Kim's eyes opened suddenly. They now glowed with a faint blue light, the same color as the ship's, emergency lighting. When he spoke, his voice seemed to blend with the ship's systems, creating an eerie chorus. "I have accessed the records of the past 200 years, he announced. Humanity's defeat, the fall of Earth, the colony world systematically hunted down." His face hardened. "And the role the Kirval played in our extinction. Commander." Tay, listening from his ship, decided diplomacy was necessary. "Captain Kim, what happened to your species was regrettable, but it was a different time. The Kirval of today are not the same as those who fought in the Great War. We have evolved, changed our ways." "Have you?" Kim asked, his voice unnervingly calm. "Your current mission objective is to salvage weapons technology from this vessel to use against your enemies. The cycle of destruction continues. Across the HSV Dauntless, systems long dormant hummed to life. Maintenance robots emerged from hidden compartments, beginning repairs on critical systems. The ship's massive engines, thought to be beyond recovery, began a careful restart sequence. Specialist Varn's instruments detected the change immediately. "Commander, the ship is powering up. Propulsion systems are coming online." Lieutenant Mock took a cautious step toward Kim. Her scientific curiosity overcame her fear. "What exactly are you, Captain Kim? The records say you are human, but clearly you are something more." Kim turned his attention to her. "I was human once. Park Jun was a scientist from Seoul. He volunteered for Project Guardian when Earth's defenses were failing. His consciousness was transferred into this enhanced body, designed to interface with the Dauntless. I am what remains of him, improved and evolved over 2 centuries of dormant development." "You have been conscious all this time?" Mock asked, horrified. "Not exactly. My awareness was fragmented. Part of me maintained the ship's essential systems. Part of me analyzed incoming data from passing vessels, and part of me dreamed of Earth." A touch of sadness crossed his face. "A planet I never actually saw with these eyes." Commander Tay watched in alarm as the ancient warship's profile changed on his scanners. Debris and damaged outer hull sections were being jettisoned, revealing more intact structures beneath. The Dauntless was shedding its disguise. "All Kirval vessels in the sector, this is Commander Tay. he broadcast on an emergency channel. The human warship is active and potentially hostile. Maintain distance and prepare defensive measures. On the Dauntless, Kim allowed himself a small smile as he detected the transmission. Through the ship's sensors, he could now see the 3 Kirval vessels that had been hidden nearby. They were waiting to approach once the boarding party had secured the warship. "Your species never did learn to be honest, Commander," Kim transmitted back. 3 ships for a simple salvage mission? Lieutenant Mock looked uncomfortable. The additional vessels were a precaution. We did not know what we might find. "You found me," Kim said simply. He walked around the command center, his movements more fluid now, as if the ship's awakening had also completed his own. "And now I face a dilemma. My programming directs me to protect humanity's legacy and seek retribution against those who destroyed us. But revenge against the descendants of those responsible serves no purpose." Mock sensed an opening. "The galaxy has changed, Captain Kim. The atrocities of the Great War led to new laws protecting sentient species and preventing genocides like what happened to humanity." "Pretty words," Kim said skeptically. "Yet here you are, seeking weapons technology to use against your enemies." "Not all species follow these laws," Mock explained. "The Nexus Collective has been consuming entire worlds, converting all matter into computational resources. They are not interested in coexistence." Kim processed this information, his cybernetic mind analyzing the strategic implications. So the Kirval, once the destroyers of humanity, now face extinction themselves. "Not just the Kirval," Mock corrected. "All biological life forms are targets for the Collective. They see organic life as inefficient and unnecessary." On the bridge of his vessel, Commander Tay received new sensor data that made him tense. "The human ship is scanning us. It has penetrated our security protocols and is accessing our database." "Impossible," his tactical officer protested. "Our systems are generations beyond anything humans possessed." "Apparently this human is not limited by old technology," Tay replied grimly. "Prepare to disengage. If that vessel powers weapons, I want us ready to jump to safety." Inside the Dauntless, Kim stood perfectly still, his eyes glowing brighter, as he absorbed information from the Kirval databases. "I see the truth of your words, Lieutenant Mock. The Nexus Collective is indeed a threat to all biological life." He paused. "I am also discovering something interesting about your people." "What is that?" Mock asked. After the war, many Kirval opposed the extinction of humanity. There were protests, political movements advocating for preserving human culture and genetic material. Kim looked at her curiously. "Your own ancestor, General Tak, was court-martialed for refusing to bombard human civilian colonies." Mock nodded slowly. "My family has carried that shame for generations. He was seen as a traitor to the war effort. Or perhaps he was the only one who understood the true cost of what your people were doing," Kim suggested. "Destroying an entire sentient species does not only harm the victims, it damages the destroyers as well." Through the ship's systems, Kim continued to analyze the tactical situation. The 3 Kirval vessels remained at a safe distance, but their weapons were powered and ready. He could also detect communications being sent to the Kirval home systems, likely requesting reinforcements. "What will you do now, Captain Kim?" Mock asked. "Will you take your revenge?" Kim was silent for a moment, his enhanced mind weighing options and calculating outcomes. The HSV Dauntless was never meant to be just a weapon of war. It was humanity's ark, containing genetic samples, cultural records, scientific knowledge. Everything needed to rebuild our civilization. He turned to face Lieutenant Mock directly. "I was meant to find a safe haven, far from the conflict, where humanity could begin again. But the ship was too badly damaged in the final battle. All I could do was hide, power down critical systems, and wait." "Until now," Mock said quietly. "Your arrival presents me with a choice," Kim continued. "I can fulfill my original mission and seek a world where humanity might be reborn. Or I can adapt to this new threat and use the Dauntless to help fight against the Nexus Collective." Before Mock could respond, alarms sounded throughout the ship. Kim's eyes flashed as he received new sensor data. It seems the choice may be made for me, he said grimly. Long-range sensors have detected Nexus Collective vessels entering this sector. They must have detected our power signature. Lieutenant Mock looked alarmed. How many? 5 combat units, Kim replied, and they will not be interested in talking. The blue glow in his eyes intensified as he fully merged with the ship's systems. It appears humanity's last weapon may have found a new purpose after all. The Caravel vessels continued their attack on the HSV Dauntless. Their advanced weapons hit the ancient warship's shields with bright flashes of energy. Commander Tay watched in disbelief as his tactical officer reported that their weapons were not working. Impossible, Tay said quietly. Their technology was centuries behind ours even when they were at their peak. Commander, the tactical officer replied, scans show the shield is not just blocking our weapons fire. It is absorbing the energy and sending it to the ship's systems. Aboard the Dauntless, Kim Jun observed the battle with the calm calculation of a being who was now more machine than man. Lieutenant Mock watched in a mixture of awe and fear as Kim directed the ship's defenses without touching a single control panel. Your weapons cannot harm this vessel, Kim told her. Project Guardian was designed to adapt and evolve. For 200 years while I slept, the ship's autonomous systems continued to develop, guided by plans established by humanity's brightest minds. Lieutenant Mock, always the scientist, could not contain her curiosity despite their dangerous situation. How is that possible? No AI could evolve independently for that long without becoming unstable. Kim turned his glowing blue eyes toward her. Who said anything about AI? The Dauntless does not have an artificial intelligence. He tapped his head. It has me. Human intuition and creativity merged with machine precision and endurance. Outside, the Kirval vessels began to retreat, recognizing the futility of their attack. Kim allowed them to withdraw to what they considered a safe distance before addressing Commander Tay directly through the ship's communication systems. Commander Tay, you have 2 options. You can continue this pointless attack, in which case, I will be forced to show the Dauntless offensive capabilities, or we can talk. There was a long pause before Tay's response came through. What is there to discuss, human? You are the last of your kind, a relic of a war long past. Perhaps, Kim acknowledged, but I am a relic with considerable power at my disposal. Power that could either be used against your people or directed elsewhere. Another pause. What do you propose? The Nexus Collective vessels will arrive in approximately 6 hours, Kim said. They represent a common enemy. I suggest we form a temporary alliance. Alliance? Tay sounded surprised. Why would you help us? Not for your sake, Kim replied, but for the sake of all biological life. The Collective sees organic beings as inefficient and unnecessary. If they are allowed to continue unchecked, they will eventually consume all life in the galaxy. Lieutenant Mock stepped forward. He's right, Commander. The Collective does not discriminate between species. They convert all biological matter into computational resources. Commander Tay considered this information. Even if I agreed to this alliance, what could one ancient warship contribute against 5 Nexus vessels? Our own fleet struggles against even one of their combat units. Kim allowed a small smile to form on his face. The HSV Dauntless is not what it appears to be. This ship was the prototype for what would have been humanity's next generation of vessels. It contains experimental technology that was never deployed in the wider war. He gestured, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the command center. It showed the Dauntless, but with significant changes to its structure. For 2 centuries, the ship has been repairing and upgrading itself using the debris of passing vessels. It has incorporated compatible technology and improved upon its original design. Lieutenant Mock studied the display with wide eyes. This is incredible. The power readings alone are beyond anything in our current fleet. Necessity drove humanity to innovation in our final days, Kim explained. Project Guardian was designed not just to preserve humanity, but to evolve and adapt to new threats. Commander Tay's voice came through the communication system. If what you say is true, Captain Kim, Your vessel could be a valuable ally against the collective, but I remain skeptical. Why trust us after what our ancestors did to humanity?" Kim was silent for a moment. "According to your own historical records after the war ended, there was significant debate within Kirval society about the morality of exterminating humanity. Many of your people advocated for preserving human culture and genetic material." "Yes," Tay admitted, "it was a dark period in our history. Many felt that the complete destruction of your species was wrong, including my own family line." "Then perhaps this is an opportunity for redemption," Kim suggested. "A chance to correct the mistakes of the past by ensuring the survival of all biological life, including what remains of humanity." "And what does remain of humanity?" Tay asked. Kim turned to look at a sealed door at the back of the command center. "The Dauntless carries the genetic material of 10,000 humans, embryos preserved in stasis, cultural databases containing our history, art, literature, and scientific knowledge. Everything needed to resurrect our species, should a suitable world be found," Lieutenant Mock gasped. "The ship is a seed vault." "It is," Kim confirmed. "I was meant to find a safe haven, far from the conflict, where humanity could begin again. But now I find myself in a galaxy where a new threat could make such a mission impossible." Commander Tay was quiet for several moments. When he spoke again, his voice had changed. "My great ancestor, Commander Lek, opposed the final assault on your colony worlds. He was relieved of command for his views. Our family has carried that shame for generations." He paused. "Perhaps now we can balance that debt." "Then we have an agreement?" Kim asked. "We do," Tay confirmed. "My vessels will coordinate with yours against the collective ships. But we will need a plan. Their technology is unlike anything we have faced before." Kim nodded, turning back to the holographic display. "The collective relies on a hive mind structure. Each vessel is connected to a central consciousness. If we can disrupt that connection, the individual units will be vulnerable. Our weapons have limited effect on their shielding," Tay pointed out. "That is where the Dauntless comes in," Kim replied. "This ship was designed to absorb and redirect energy. We will use your weapons fire not against the collective vessels directly, but to power a quantum disruption field that will sever their connection to the hive mind." Lieutenant Mock looked from Kim to the holographic display. "Will it work?" "In theory," Kim admitted. "It has never been tested against this specific enemy. It is a risk," Commander Tay said, "but one worth taking. My tactical officers will coordinate with your systems to develop a battle plan." As they began preparations, Lieutenant Mock approached Kim privately. "There's something I don't understand," she said. "If the Dauntless has been evolving for 200 years, why didn't it act on its own? Why wait for you to awaken?" Kim's expression softened slightly. "Because despite all its technological advancement, the ship still needed one thing that could not be replicated." "What's that?" "The human element," Kim replied. "Intuition, creativity, the ability to make the moral choice, not just the logical one." He looked down at his hands. "I may be part machine now, but what remains of Park Jun still guides my decisions. It's why I can choose alliance over revenge, cooperation over conflict." Lieutenant Mock studied him with new understanding. "You are quite extraordinary, Captain Kim." "No," he corrected her. "I am simply what humanity became in its final hour. Not a weapon of destruction, but a bridge to the future." As the Nexus collective vessels drew closer, the Dauntless and the Kirval ships prepared for battle. The ancient warship, long thought to be a derelict, revealed its true nature. Weapon systems that had been hidden beneath damaged hull plating emerged. Energy flowed through circuits that had lain dormant for centuries, and at the heart of it all stood Kim Jun, humanity's last guardian, ready to fight not for vengeance, but for the future of all biological life in the galaxy. 1 year later, the HSV Dauntless floated above a beautiful green planet called Haven. Its massive form cast shadows on the clouds below. On the surface, construction had begun on the first human settlement in over 2 centuries. But there was something different about this project. Careful engineers worked side by side with maintenance robots to build the infrastructure needed for the return of humanity. On the ship's observation deck, Kim June stood beside Lieutenant Mock, who was now Ambassador Mock. She was the official, Kirval representative to the Human Restoration Project. Through the large windows they watched as small ships carried supplies and people between the Dauntless and the planet's surface. The first batch of embryos will be ready next month, Mock reported, looking at information on her tablet. The artificial wombs are working perfectly. Kim nodded, his face thoughtful. The first new humans born in 200 years. They will grow up in a very different galaxy than the one I knew. A better one, I hope, Mock replied. The Galactic. Concord has officially recognized Haven as a protected world. 17 different species have promised resources to help the restoration effort. Kim smiled slightly. Guilt is a powerful motivator. It is more than guilt, Mock said firmly. Your actions against the Nexus Collective have changed how many species view humanity. The Battle of Proxima Station showed the galaxy what one human vessel could accomplish. Kim remembered the battle clearly. The Dauntless had led a desperate fleet against the main processing hub of the Nexus Collective. The ancient warship had absorbed attack after attack, using the energy to power a weapon that no one had believed possible. The quantum disruptor had severed the Collective's hive mind connections, making their forces disorganized and vulnerable. One human-machine hybrid, Kim corrected her. I am not sure how much of the original Kim June remains after all this time. Enough, Mock said with conviction. Enough to choose mercy over revenge when you had every right to destroy us. Enough to risk everything to save a galaxy that had forgotten humanity. Their conversation was interrupted by a communication from the planet's surface. Captain Kim, the first living dome is complete. They are requesting your presence for the naming ceremony. I will be there, Kim replied. Prepare a shuttle. As they made their way to the hangar bay, they passed a section of the ship that had been turned into a museum. It was a place to preserve Earth's history and culture. Kirval scientists and historians worked carefully to save artifacts and translate literature that had nearly been lost forever. Have you decided on the name? Mock asked as they boarded the shuttle. Kim nodded. New Seoul, in honor of the city where Park Jun lived before he became part of Project Guardian. He rarely spoke of his origins, how his consciousness had been created from the memories and personality of a brilliant young engineer who had volunteered for the experimental program. The shuttle descended through Haven's atmosphere. It broke through clouds to reveal a landscape that looked like Earth's most beautiful regions. The designers of the colony had included elements of different human cultures. They wanted to create a home that would feel familiar to the children, who would grow up there. As they approached the landing pad, Kim could see the gathering of representatives from across the galaxy. There were beings of all shapes and sizes. They were united in their support of humanity's rebirth. Among them stood Commander Tay, now Admiral Tay. He had become one of the project's strongest supporters despite initial resistance from Kirval leadership. The shuttle landed, and Kim stepped out to applause from the gathered crowd. He still found such attention uncomfortable. He preferred the solitude of the Dauntless and his connection to its systems, but he understood why his presence was important. Admiral Tay approached, offering a formal bow. Captain Kim, welcome to New Seoul. Kim returned the gesture. Admiral, the settlement is progressing well. Thanks to your guidance, Tay acknowledged, and the technology you have shared has improved our defensive capabilities against the remaining collective forces. Kim had been careful about what technology he shared from the Dauntless's database. He gave enough to help protect biological life throughout the galaxy, but not the kind of weapons that had led to humanity's downfall in the first place. The ceremony was short. There was a simple dedication of the living dome and the unveiling of a plaque. It had writing in both human languages and those of the contributing species. As Kim stood at the front to say a few words, he looked out at the diverse crowd and felt something he had not experienced since awakening. Hope. 200 years ago, humanity stood alone against extinction, he began. Today, we return not in isolation, but as part of a community of species. The mistakes of the past cannot be undone, but they can teach us. The children who will be born here will grow up knowing not just human history, but the histories of all your peoples. He gestured to the living dome behind him. This is not just humanity's second chance. It is a second chance for all of us to prove that different species can live together, that the cycle of destruction can be broken. After the ceremony, as the celebration continued, Kim found a quiet moment alone on a hill overlooking the settlement. The sun was setting, casting a golden light across the landscape. It reminded him of Earth sunsets he had never actually seen, but remembered through Park Jun's memories. Ambassador Mock found him there, approaching quietly to stand beside him. "You are missing the party." "I have never been comfortable in crowds," Kim replied. A side effect of spending centuries alone with only a ship's systems for company. Mock nodded in understanding. "What will you do now?" "The restoration project is underway. The threat of the collective has been reduced." "The Dauntless was designed for more than one mission," Kim said, looking up at the massive ship visible in the evening sky. "There are other threats in the galaxy, other challenges that will require attention. You do not have to face them alone anymore," Mock pointed out. Kim turned to her, his expression softening. "No, I do not. And that may be the most remarkable outcome of all this. That humanity's last weapon found not just purpose but allies. As night fell on Haven, lights began to illuminate the living dome of New Sol. In laboratories aboard the Dauntless, the first generation of new humans was being prepared for life. They would be born into a galaxy very different from the one their species had left. One where humanity was not just remembered but welcomed back. Kim Jun, the last soldier of old Earth and the guardian of humanity's future, watched the stars appear one by one in Haven's night sky. His mission had changed in ways he could never have expected, but its core remained the same. To protect the legacy of his species, not through revenge, but through renewal. Not alone, but together with the very beings who had once been enemies. Kim understood the irony. That humanity's last weapon had become the tool of its rebirth, and that those who had nearly destroyed humankind would now help to restore it. In the darkness of space, the HSV Dauntless continued its silent watch, a testament to humanity's ingenuity and resilience. No longer a ghost ship drifting among the stars, but a beacon of hope for the future, and a reminder that even in the darkest moments life finds a way to continue. The end.